Turning on the local recordings. All right. Looks like we saw already. Hey, Fox. Random. Greetings and welcome to Die presents Grimstone Chronicles Master of Puppets, Session 1. This is the mild case of insanity where we attempt to play effectively Dungeon Dragons solo play with Adventure Bot and a bunch of automation and a stream, so it's quasi-solo play. I'm your DM and host and player, Marty. And I'm going to attempt to wear many hats, including playing multiple characters and having in-character conversations. Yay! Let me get my video going, as there is no like conference call for this particular adventure. We'll just get this in the right spot, and we'll bury it behind various elements. There we go. Awesome. Good to see you guys here today in the channel. And we will get started. It is an interesting campaign name. It works on multiple levels. The first level that it works on is, well, I'm the DM and the player, so I'm pulling lots of strings. Second, there may be an actual part of the yeah, madness indeed. There may be an actual part of the adventure where there are people pulling puppets. Now, for context, for those who have been watching our co-DMing, this is part of our campaign where we're exploring and play testing and basically prototyping different ways of running a Dungeons & Dragons or role-playing campaign. In the other game, we've cobbled together, almost as we've gone, a way of sharing the DM stick or the DM powers around the table, session to through session, or adventure thread to adventure thread. Having a lot of fun dissecting what it means to be a DM. I've been a DM for a very long time, like on the order of decades, and this is the first time where I've really been forced to put a lot of words to the things that I kind of instinctually know, and dissecting what it means to, build an adventure outline. And it's been a really neat exercise, and part of that exercise was necessary to build the adventure bot, and then other pieces of it were definitely required to think about what would you do in solo play, because I do like our flavor of our games is we do talk in character. I will attempt to I'm not even sure what this is, aside from us loving D&D and loving role-playing games. This is kind of it's in part, it is a selfish thing, which is a lot of solo play, I guess, is by definition is selfish. There are some character ideas, and that we've got so many of them, that because I'm a DM and I don't often get to play, I would like to explore those concepts. And I sort of want these characters to live in the world that we started creating with the greater multiverse, but specifically Volcanica. And potentially a couple of the characters could be cameoed in the other adventure or in the other campaigns, depending on where this goes. I also did this as a B team, so that if it doesn't work, the failure case is we go, yep, without that, we're going to put that off to the side, and we'll continue going with the co-op DM thread of this campaign. Which seems to be working well. I was super impressed the other night about Ahmed, with Ahmed's prep. Ahmed's not a DM very often, and I said the word Bikya all day long the day after his game. I thought that was a really interesting concept. So it's kind of neat to see, hey Drake, neat to see like other perspectives, and then to get to be a player. Now, there are a couple of characters that we'll start the opening scene with. This is basically... I haven't done a lot of DM prep because the point of this is also to test out our adventure bot to see what comes out of it. So we will roll an adventure, and I will build that adventure on the fly for these characters with your input from the stream. Given that there's only basically two entities involved, like the chat and myself, I think we should allocate ourselves more DM points for this evening. I'm going to say something like 5 DM points might be appropriate apiece. So for Master of Puppets, and that was my 30-second name after my nap. I'm like, we need to call this something to differentiate it from the other Greystone Chronicles. And then we've got, like, Team A and Team B is kind of what we've been calling it around the table. But basically the main thread, and then Master of Puppets. So I think for tonight, we should have Marty with 5 DM points, and the stream chat with 5 DM points. Keep in mind that your DM points are more powerful because they can act like villain and or hero points. And if we forget, what can I do with a hero point? We have a page already somewhere. References. DM points, what can they do? I'll paste that in chat. So DM points can trigger an encounter, change the difficulty or details of an encounter, change the aspect of downtime rolls, change the aspect of an adventure. When we generate them randomly, sometimes things don't quite fit. And then change a magic item type on a reward, or maybe even a specific reward. We're going to try to keep things within level appropriate. Like, I basically don't want to have like artifacts floating around in the hands of low-level characters. And for the stream only, 1 DM point can also act like a hero or villain point, like I said. So, what's the theme of the Master and Puppets game? Well, it's located in the same city as the other party members. And we start out with 2 noble lads. They are Syndicate family nobles. The Syndicate being like the mafioso of Volcanica, or specifically a foundry, and they're pretty much misfits, sort of like the other group. And I think after the first game, we'll have a much better feel as to the trials of these characters. Some of them are. I have purposefully not like detailed some of their backgrounds like really uber deep, because we can develop that as we go, and I'm going to lean on you guys for inspiration with filling in some of the details of the adventure itself. I have a strong idea for the first adventure. The theme of the first adventure are 2 nobles that are curious as to why they're being treated special when they haven't been treated special for a very long time. All right. So if there are any other questions, please let me know. If not, we're going to open the scene, and I've got a couple of tokens. I put these maps together right before this session. It took me maybe I've probably done maybe a half an hour of DM prep, gathering some maps and a few tokens. Aside from that, it was the scripting for the adventure bot, and then making these characters. They took maybe like an hour or 2 apiece. But a lot of it is going to be generated either through our script, what's in my brain, and what's in your brains. So as we recall, Yeah, let's just dive in. I think that's probably just the best way. As we recall, the city of Foundry is a city on Volcanica, which has a lot of volcanoes, a lot of earthquake activity. It is a terrestrial planet and realm that is important to the Imperium. It is considered one of the core worlds of the Imperium. The Imperium being a multi-world spanning human-centric empire ruled by the Undying Emperor. They do have gunpowder, which has enabled them to expand and conquer, or partially conquer, many fantasy worlds in this D&D, in this Dungeons and Dragons fantasy universe. Now, there are plenty of campaigns on YouTube where we dive into what is the Imperium, but this is a Imperium core world, which makes this different from, say, Pastoria, which is also an Imperial core world, is that they have control over the world, but that does not mean that they have entirely stamped out any possible local opposition on this world. As we talked about when we built Volcanica with the stream, that there are large swaths of territory, notably the jungles, where all sorts of Nagaji, Lizardmen, Dragonborn, bogards, and those types of lizard and amphibian races dwell. Hobgoblins also are a problem. But they have largely secured places where they are getting what they need from Volcanica, which includes a lot of material resources. And because Volcanica is very close to the sourcing for those material goods, iron, steel, iron processed into steel, precious metals, even common metals, Volcanica, and in places, and in particular Foundry, is undergoing sort of like an early industrial revolution. There are steam-run trains that move coal and steel and people and goods back and forth around the imperial parts of controlled parts of Volcanica. Volcanica is also strategically important, as a lot of the gunpowder that the Imperium requires for their world-level conquests comes from Volcanica itself, and that's probably the major export from Volcanica itself, aside from steel. There are a lot of proud families. The history goes back quite a long way of Imperial presence. We haven't established a true timeline, but it's on the order of like hundreds of years. Probably like 400 or 500 years that the Imperium has been here. One of the early wars was the Settler Wars, and then a thing that is also sort of that shouldn't be lost in these details. While we've seen in other campaigns a lawful evil bent to the Imperium, that lawful evil may have a source, and in the same breath, I'm going to say, or remind us that the Church of Asmodeus has its grand church and its centralized church in the Imperium on Volcanica itself. Hey, Frozen Gnomes. Now, we are peering through the smoggy skies of the early industrial city of Foundry. We can hear a foghorn in a distance, as there are massive ships. Some of the ships have taken a much more metallic look to them. It appears that even some of the shipbuilders have begun to start to replace some of the wooden ships that are almost synonymous with the Imperial conquests in the last 300, 400 years with that of metal. Out in the distance, in the harbor, there sits this thing like a lazy crocodile made of metal, sitting low in the water. Weird cannons, cannon ports along its sides, geometric shapes. It's like a turtle, almost. A metal turtle, angular and sleek. We notice it just sitting off in the distance as a storm is rolling in, like not a heavy storm, but like heavy clouds, rain that will probably, with good chance, be mildly acidic as it comes pouring down upon the old factory town of Foundry. A lot of people didn't quite notice, or the ship traffic continued, whatever that strange anomaly was out there, this metal turtle of a boat. We peel back from and see a busy harbor, goods going to and fro. Not only is Foundry a factory town, but it's also a major port city, and it is the largest, probably the largest city on Volcanica, because of these multiple factors. It is where a lot of goods come in to be refined before being shipped out. It is a major trading port before we go into the Leeward lands, where the Song Gate is located, an important planner connection. And there are many races that mingle and dwell in Foundry itself. We see a flurry of activity. If this was a movie, we would see that just because the Imperium is a force of law on the multiverse, it doesn't mean that every single inch of the Imperium is run with a Modron automaton-like quality. There is corruption, and it would be naive for us to think that there wasn't, especially in a place where so much commerce and so many different peoples dwell. We see a scene of a bunch of a well-organized team of street kids that are running amok amongst warehouses, stealing and pilfering and pickpocketing. We pan over to a really run-down, rustic, grimy tavern where there are two guys that are beating up a third over what amounts to scraps of wealth and a few copper coins. There is a crime problem in Foundry itself, and one could almost say that it is an organized crime problem, as these kids running amok do pay a master of beggars, and even those two thugs beating up the downtrodden do have to kick back to their local boss. And all these funds trickle up in ways as the tendrils of this organized crime family, or series of families, does permeate throughout many parts of business and even into the upper echelons of society itself. The fact that there is an organized crime syndicate, is what they're called. It's not a secret, but it's the type of thing that is on the tip of people's tongues, but they don't talk about unless they want to become their next victims. The Syndicate is run by imperial families, or at least that's what the Syndicate would have you believe. That the human families of the Syndicate, this is their right to prey upon those who are lesser, because they are Imperials. They are the ones that won Volcanica. They are the Empire. Of course, there are other elements in the Imperium that would not make it so, but corruption has a way of sinking in, of getting stuck, of becoming the norm. And the Syndicate, to an outsider, would be, in certain places, would be hard to distinguish from authority. It is in this filth of corruption, this sort of stink that multiple of our characters tonight were raised. I've got some tokens, which I will... The first man that we're going to talk about is, his name is Lloes. He's a dashing young man, in his early 20s. He comes from a family that is one of the nine Syndicate families. They're more like clans, because there are even multiple families in each of these great imperial families, or at least great in their own right. The true Imperials probably don't think of the Syndicate families as, you know, close to the Emperor and true Imperial blood, but on this local level, the nine are pretty self-important. Lloes has always wanted to be a great swordsman. He's never really wanted to be a thief. He's had dreams of becoming a great swordsman. But there are a couple of things that have kept him from becoming such. First, there is a familial expectation that Lloes follows in the criminal enterprises. His family is one that, within his own clan of the Lutreniacs, are in some of them are a little better than thugs, and others have their claws and tendrils in the shipping business, where basically they run a racket on dock fees, and they make bad things happen to ships and those private merchants that don't pay. Lloes has never really been interested in ships. He's never really been interested in shipping. He also doesn't have hands for fine work, for hard work. Good thing that he's somewhat noble. He has been put through a lot of training, though. And that is what differentiates him from some of the other noble thugs that wander around. He has actually his family has paid for a slew of masters to teach him ways of trickery, as well a blend of swordplay, which is more so his style. His ailing mother has allowed him to choose his own path somewhat. Lloes also has another problem as a warrior, which maybe the skills as a roguish swordsman or a swashbuckler have helped. He's not the... While he's very quick and very speedy, Lloes has sometimes problems breathing. He's not the healthiest of chaps. He finds himself winded quite often, and he knows that in a long slog fight, or in a fight against bruisers, that he can't quite take the punishment that some others that some others have. This hasn't kept Lloes from enjoying life. He enjoys a good drink. He enjoys spending time in the local brothels, carousing. He is somewhat of a free spirit, trapped in this realm of expectation. Lloes has a penchant for getting into trouble as well. Maybe it's his entitlement as a imperial noble, or maybe it's just an outlet for some of the stricter things that he's had to endure. But sometimes he just gets into trouble, and perhaps this time is one of those times. He has a bundle. It is heavy. It is sitting underneath his very very light armor. It's almost not armor. And he knows that he shouldn't have taken it, but his curiosity got the better of him. Plus, somebody else asked him to do it. A brief thought of he might be able to blame it on somebody else, but we'll get there if we'll do that if we have to later on. This bundle is heavy. It's about 6 inches long, maybe a few inches wide, and it's wrapped in some silky like doily that he grabbed off of one of his family's tables when he was able to get the item. Right now, he's looking for his. I don't know if we want to call it his friend. It was another noble lad that he's felt sorry about. Sometimes because these families are close, they have their children trained together. Lloes and his friend are both third sons of their noble families. With that, they've been given a little bit more looser rope to hang themselves with. The expectations haven't been as high, as on the first and second born of their family. We need a name for an inn. We're going to start this adventure in a tavern because that's where adventures start, goddammit. Who's writing the notes? They're just flowing. The Iron Bracket Inn. All right. It's named as such because there are like steel beams from some failed construction or an older building that actually create these little nooks inside the main tap room of the inn, and tables and chairs have been squished into those nooks, which provide a dude, I've been doing it for a long time. My brain has been trained just to open up and flow. So don't sit back and enjoy. I welcome your help. So Lloes sees the Iron Bracket Inn, and he can smell the stains of, or you can smell like the soggy smell of sweat, gym socks, and like really old soured beer. Like the place isn't cleaned very well, with this acrid smoke coming from the place, as some people might be into the devil's leaf, which is, we'd say, some sort of mild drug that is smoked by that is smoked in foundry. I'm gonna make a note. That's a good idea. I'm gonna create some notes as we're gonna go. So we've got Iron Bracket Inn, and we've got Devil's Leaf. Some sort of harsh tobacco. Lloes steps inside, and you can hear immediately the sounds of like some raucous fellows laughing around clanking beer steins. Early industrial, yeah, they actually have glass beer mugs, like the really big, heavy, German style steins. And he glances around the tavern, looking for his noble companion, we'll say. His noble companion sticks out like a sore thumb. And some of you will remember from a very brief side campaign that I played with John, I introduced a character by the name of Chagnaron Dune, or Chagga. I woke up this morning and went, you know what? I really want to play Chagga. I really want to play a character who's B-fat. So you'll get what I mean in a second. Chagga is a big man. He's a very big man. He's about 6'2", 400 pounds. He's wearing a light suit of armor that is too close fitting, and there are rolls of chaga that are kind of stuffed up around the openings for his arms, as well as coming out underneath the really tight-fitting chainmail itself. He's sitting at a table alone. It looks like he's sort of wedged himself in between a bench and one of these iron brackets and the table itself, and he looks really uncomfortable, like he's fighting with his suit of armor being left alone. There are no less than 3 finished beer mugs at the table, and it looks like he's already like licked the chicken from the bones of an entire full chicken, and a comely lass does bring by another beer. He's like, oh, thank you. You anticipated my need, and he's like talking, but she smiles politely and kind of skirts off to somewhere else. Lloes sighs deeply and just sort of slips into the bench. He's easily able to fit in the remaining inches between his bench and the side of table that Chagga's been slowly pushing to his side of the table. Oh, young Master Lutrenic, good to see you on this fine day. Springtime, however, the rains are awful, and Chagga runs a greasy hand over his bald pate. The acid rains are horrible for one's complexion. Yeah, I got it. Oh, very good. No. Don't take it out now. We don't want anyone seeing it. I don't think I was followed. Yes, but there are many eyes and ears in here. Many eyes and ears indeed. You kind of stick out. Oh, well. Are we going to start with the fat jokes already? Very well. Why don't you enjoy a beer with us? I wanted to talk a little bit about our upcoming ceremony. Yeah, sure. Lloes waves for a beer, and the one of the comely wenches just seems to have trays of them and drops one off of the table. You're buying, right? Yes. Yes, I suppose. Of course, they don't give you a bit of an allowance. Third son should have an allowance, especially from a marvelous family such as yours. I spent mine already. Oh dear, you're not very good with money. Well, I suppose there's always room for us to get them. Dude, it's Chagga. So, Lloes takes a sip from the beer, and Chagga fiddles with some coins and kind of puts them on a table. He seems to be collecting some coins underneath a greasy, like a greasy handkerchief. He's counting out the coins as he's eating. Chagga spots a bit of chicken that he missed from before when things got shifted around, and now he's like delicately peeling it off one of the bones. Surprisingly delicate for someone who enjoys food so much. Oh, yes. Sort of licking his fingers and sweating, and he's got a good like beer hot chicken sweat going on, or it could have been the acid rain beforehand. Yes. So, what I wanted to ask you is, are you having some sort of special birthday celebration? I was thinking of going to this one brothel. No. Are you feeling all right? You look out of breath. Yeah. I'll be fine. Just give me a moment. Oh. Chagga watches Lloes as Lloes seems to like almost like go into a meditative stance, like he's trying to slow his own breathing. Don't mind me. He eats the chicken. I'll wait. It'll be alright. It'll pass. Oh, very interesting. Yeah. Chagga doesn't mind. As someone who is not fit the mold, especially of the expectations from a family such as the Dunes, Chagga has an appreciation for those that don't fit the mold. Although it's a little concerning that this man wants to be a warrior and gets out of breath. Oh, I don't mean a special celebration after your birthday party. What I more meant was, is there a special celebration that your family has invited you to? Something on the order of a special ceremony, an indoctrination, an invitation, a surprise? Yeah? Lloes looks at Chagga like, the fuck did you know? Oh, yes. I've heard of this being done amongst the families of the Nine before. It usually happens when it does to, second or thirdborn children, or even fourth or fifth. It's not the sort of thing that I've heard being done with first or second-born children. Is that why you needed me to get this key? Ah, yes, precisely. Your family had one, didn't they? Yeah. He puts this bundle and slides it across the table. Chagga's, like, pudgy little fingers, kind of like, he acts very dainty, aside from being very big. He daintily walks his fingers across the table and slides the heavy key towards him, keeping the doily still wrapped around it. Does yours? Oh, yes, most certainly my family does have them, but the Dunes are, how shall we say, absolutely paranoid about letting poor old Chagga from getting his fat fingers on them. Oh. Yeah, this was, hard to get. I imagine. But I think they brought it out. Wait. This has something to do with the birthday surprise? Oh, yes, it does. Chagga takes a look at it. This key is for a crypt. They're bringing me to a crypt? Oh, yes. Perhaps I should show you. In fact, maybe we could go and have a little peek before the celebration. Why do we want to go to a crypt? Because, my dear, poor Lloes, I've been invited to this celebration as well. You? I thought, like, it was... Lloes looks confused. Oh, yes, it is usually extended to much younger, much more fit members of the aristocracy. Of course, he doesn't mean imperial aristocracy. He means the Syndicate family, and both of them know that their families are into some bad stuff. Yes. We've both been invited for a special birthday ceremony. Okay. There might be others, I'm not sure. You've got to understand, dear Lloes. I've never quite had the approval of my family. Well, someone beautiful and handsome as you is likely is a much easier time. Thanks? And Lloes seems to only be half paying attention between his beer and watching some of the comely lasses. You see, my father has an idea in his head about what a warrior noble should look like.
It's almost as if he forgot what the family business was. Anyways, his idea of a noble warrior is one that actually fits into his chain shirt and into other armors. Yes, it would quite be expensive. It would be quite expensive to put me in full plate. Chagga shudders like he's remembering something. The memory that he was recalling was him dressed up in practice armor while his two older brothers just beat the piss out of him, and they called it training. It's not as if I don't enjoy martial pursuits. I've got some wicked weapons at home. If anything, the Dune family does have a quite interesting arsenal. Anyways, I actually know the day. What day? The day that I scared my family. Los looks at him like, you're already kind of scary, dude. Oh yes, it was a day I was brought into the courtyard to continue my martial training with my brothers. Can I DM point for Chagga to be incredibly dexterous, high dex? He's got a 10 dex. These are Chagga's stats. Uh, 14, 10, 14, 12, 18, 18. Don't know if changing his stats. Let me, it's pretty dexterous. Sure, I'm gonna, what are we gonna stick this under? An inherent bonus to dex? 20 dex? I don't know. I will give him a stream awarded +2 to his dexterity bonus, so he actually has some dex. Let me make note of that. Having nimble fingers to pluck food is much different than having good balance in combat, but I'm going to make a note that Dex award +2 from stream. Cool. And I'm going to take a DM point off. The day, it is burned into my mind. It was a day where I got my vengeance, well, at a great cost. Okay. My two brothers, you see, they really enjoyed beating the piss out of me. I would dress up in all sorts of turtley armor that didn't quite fit right, try to swing around pole arms and other padded things while they beat me with training swords. It was on this day, however, that I knew I would get them. And I entered their minds and made their noses bleed. One of them was had bloodshot eyes for a week. The other one said that his ears popped and they bled. Oh, it was a wonderful day. A horrible day. My father did not understand. He did not understand how Chagga figured out... Oh, thank you, my dear. How Chagga figured out how to cast magic wearing what was basically a suit of stone armor. It was a delicious day. A day I paid for dearly. What's this have to do with the key? My family, since that day, has feared me. My father knew enough about magics that wizards aren't supposed to be able to cast when they are laden with metal. After that, they stopped asking me to come and train with them, and I was left to my own pursuits. Oh, of course, I would have to undergo the indignity of public and private humiliation from all sides. My two brothers and my father don't like me very much. But they did leave me alone. So it would come to a surprise that I would receive a letter. A very formal letter from my family stating that they wish to celebrate my 33rd birthday, the special ceremony, and that I were to come with little more than a very large robe and a smile to a particular crypt, where I would be blessed. That's the birthday celebration. We're going to be blessed at a crypt. Oh, you know, ceremonies. Weddings and funerals are really the only time that they invite me to anything these days. Now why, all of a sudden, would they want to celebrate poor old Chagga's birthday? Good question. Have you heard of any of your family members going to this ceremony? I don't think so. Maybe a cousin? Perhaps you are too young. You're how old, Lloes?
22.
Yes. Prime age? Our usual age? Do you remember your sister? Yeah, she died. Did she? Yeah, I was very young. She was like the firstborn of my family, I think. I have some memories of her when I was a child, but they said the rot took her. The rot did it. Yes, a horrible disease. The rot was. Struck down both beggar and king. However, the rot was... I don't believe the reason why your sister disappeared. She died. There's a grave marker and everything. I've been to it. Yes? Yes. Out with it. He's now paying attention. I remember hearing that your sister... Lily was her name, wasn't it? Yeah, Lilith. Lily would have been my age. And I went to school with Lily. I remember her being very excited. He glances down at the key and back at Lloes. That she was being invited for a special blessing at a crypt. Lloes seems to be piecing it together. You saying she disappeared because you went and got blessed? I'm saying that all things in our families are not as they appear. You should be deeply concerned, my dear friend.
Los, for the first time, doesn't really feel sorry for Chagga. He's actually kind of lost in thinking about like what he thought was true and what his family has told him.
Oh, fuck. Yes. Fuck, indeed. Oh, yeah, so this key is to the crypt, and they took it out because your birthday celebration. My father's probably wearing his around his neck.
What should we do?
I say we go and pay a little visit to the shrine ahead of the celebration. Well, it's only 3 days from now.
Oh, fuck.
Yes, yes, a very common word, but I believe it is apt at this point in time. Fuck.
Yeah, I think I know where it is. There's a lot of crypts there.
Yes, it is the Urncaster crypt that we should be particularly concerned about.
Urncasters. They're like a bunch of and this is where Marty's going, oh, and I'm going to glance at their skills and go, Los has knowledge nobility and knowledge religion, and Chagga has some knowledge nobility, and we'll roll a few rolls. The first two are from Los. So Los gets Los gets like a 17. They're like a lesser family.
Indeed. From what I gather, they like to skulk around crypts.
Oh, so they're not one of the 9?
I don't think so. But for them to be involved in our family, as they might be one of the servitor families.
My father's called the servitors. It's just one of the 9 in waiting.
Yes, the 9 do replace themselves from time to time. We are humans, after all. Our names do change. Old families fail, new ones come up. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about you and me. And because we have families that seem to be very interested in celebrating our birthdays with strange blessings, birthdays that I suspect people do not come back from.
Fuck, my family wouldn't do that.
Oh, mine might. We should still check, though.
Yeah, okay. When do you want to do this?
I say we go under the cover of darkness, maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna grab some stuff. If we're going to a crypt, we'll probably need like some gear.
Yes, some gear. I'll go fetch some weapons. If anything, being hit by them so many times, I think I know how to use them.
Yeah, sure. Los looks uncertain, like how Chagga will be any help. Yeah, sure. So, like, tonight?
It'll give us more time, just in case we run into any complications, I suppose. 3 days is 3 days.
All right, tonight's at the entrance to the graveyard. You said you know where the Urncaster crypt is.
Yes, yes. You're lucky you have me around. Sure.
Lloes leaves. Chagga sits there for a while with the key.
Noble is as a noble does. Don't worry, my breathless friend. We'll get to the bottom of this. We'll get to the end.
And he drinks his drinks the rest of his stein, and the scene is done. All right. We've got Chagga and Lloes. That are going to go off and gather their meager gear. Do you guys want to take like a mental break before next scene and like go through their builds, or do you want to just jump right into it? Let's give you a little preview of Lloes. Okay, Lloes Lutrenic is a male human. He's Imperial. He's 22, 5'11", 180. He's a Ninja 2, Swashbuckler 1 on the back end. He's a Sorcerer 3 with the bloodline possessed. His background is Syndicate Thief, Chaotic Neutral. He's got a 10 Strength, a 20 Dex, and a 10 Con. For a warrior, this is very, very concerning. He's a bright individual, 14 int, 14 wisdom, and an 18 charisma. Let's see, feats and powers. He fights with an estoc. I felt like just doing a different sort of weapon. Because he has a prestige class in his gestalt. Does he? Give me a second. What kind of sorcerer is he? This may have moved around a bit. I don't know if bloodline, if mutagenic bloodline is considered a prestige gestalt. I might have to. Is that a prestige class of sorcerer? Is that, I forget. I built this guy like a month ago. The bloodline mutations, are they considered a archetype of sorcerer? Oh, never mind. Prestige Gestalt. I'm paying it forward for his future build. I got it now. That's not what it is. With Possession Sorcerer Bloodline, Lloes, well, we haven't actually explained it. Lloes has always had the feeling that somebody's been watching him. He took Blood Havoc instead of his first level Bloodline power, which allows him to add 1 point of damage per die rolled on any School of Spell with spell focus. So eventually he'll have like damaging spells. There's a bunch of swashbuckler junk. We play with the swashbuckler like they're key points. I really can't stand the regenerating powers that swashbucklers and the gunslingers have. Let's see. Ninja, he has taken bleeding attack, and then as a 3rd level feat, he took extra trick, so he also has the vanishing trick. So this is This is probably his mode of fighting as well as getting away. Exotic weapon proficiency, S-Doc, weapon finesse, weapon focus as his background, eschew materials through sorcerer, piranha strike, and then the extra ninja trick. He's got some sorcerer spells, and his 20th level build will look something like this. Or 18th level build. I only built him to 18 for some reason. Ninja 10, Swashbuckler 8, Sorcerer 8, Arcane Trickster on the back end, and we'll see a good mix of swordplay and magic through Lloes. I seem to have been going through a kick in like the last 6 months of really wanting to do magic sword people. Like magic melee seems to be a thing. It's been stuck in my head. Chagga. Yeah, it might. Chagga is the one that I rebuilt today. And Chagga is the... it's just a different sort of feel for Chagga. So on the front end, he's going to be a fighter cleric 2. I was on the fence about whether making him like a devil worshiper or not. I decided that I was going to go a little bit milder with Chagga. He is neutral. He worships the pattern in the weave. And on the back end, he's a sorcerer, but he's a psychic sorcerer. Meaning that his sorcerer spells don't act like normal sorcerer spells. They are thought and emotion components instead of somatic and verbal components, which is how he can cast in armor. He's an Imperial of Clan Dune. We already talked about his ability scores a little bit. Let's see. How does he fight? So, yeah, he has training. Like, his family put him through martial training. So he's a Fighter 1, Cleric 2. He'll eventually be Cleric 8, 19. And then the Sorcerer Psychic on the back end. He does get Mind Thrust, which is a very interesting attack divination spell. And there are ways that you can undercast spells. So he'll have a weird mix of psychic powers that he'll get as he goes through. He's also a channeler. So he has the trait Powerful Channels, and he can channel negative energy. His 5th level feat will be Versatile Channel, so he'll be also channeling positive energy as well. He's going to basically dress up in as heavy armor as he can find, and then fling his war scythe around with the Hand of the Acolyte, which is a power from the domain, from the magic domain. He's got some neat powers through the knowledge domain as well. His feats are a hodgepodge. Yeah, I'm trying out psychic spells. His feats are a hodgepodge. There's the background feat of Spell Focus Divination to help with his Mind Blasts. Through Human, I gave him Ability Focus Channel. Combined with that, with the trait, he's got a +3 on DCs for his channels. He's got Selective Channel. Fighter 1, Toughness. This was just his brothers beating the piss out of him, so he's pretty tough. Eschew Materials is a 1st level sorcerer feat, and then I gave him Psychic Sensitivity, which means that this allows him to unlock the occult skill powers. So he could touch objects and read them, or do other things like phrenology and a bunch of the other things there. With cleric spells on the back end, that's kind of normal, or on the front end, and on the back end you've got his sorcerer spells and some good weapons, as he described. His family really likes their weapons, and some junky like second level armor. If you have psychic spells already, you don't need the feat. I'm not sure if that's true or not for the bloodline of. We'll check on that one. I'll make a note, but I won't check. I won't swap it out now. Does psychic bloodline mean he auto gets? I just flipped through it very quickly. I might have missed the sentence where it actually says that. If you do come across that, then please do share. Cool. That is Lloes and Chagga. I'm going to talk about the other guys, which are kind of like filling in for our party as we meet them, and maybe we can take like a mental kind of like cool down when we finish the scene, when we introduce the two rats and the kid. So we've got the blade, the fat man, the kid, and the two rats that we basically will be part of their little group. Cool. Let's continue. You know what? I at this point in time don't know what the encounter should be. I have some maps. I've got a plot line. Why don't we roll up some encounters for tonight's adventure, and then we can start adjusting it as we see fit. So I'm going to say that there is an encounter. Let me see if this thing is running. That is a level 2 encounter for the entrance to the crypt. Okay, and all right. The random generator has generated that there is a CR2 group. Okay. The PCs are on an even playing field. Gotcha. The opponent has less gear, so for whatever reason, they're not like all decked out or whatever. The starting distance is 120 feet. The opponent is entrenched. It's not relevant to the characters as in what they're doing, but it is relevant to the campaign plotline. So I'm going to say that this is actually pretty simple to fill out. I'm going to say that when they go to the Urncaster, when they go to the graveyard, there are a couple of guards that are posted at the grave place where the blessing was supposed to take place. I was going to save these tokens for later, but we're going to say we've got 2 guards. And we're going to put down the 2 guards. Cool. And these 2 guards 120 feet away is when there's a chance of like rolling spot checks and perception checks and that sort of thing. And it says they have less gear, so they might be lightly armored and armed. And they do have a magic item, so there is a magic item that is in this place somewhere. We'll say it might be on the altar that belongs to the Urncasters themselves, and we can roll that up a little bit later. Cool, I think we have our first encounter. Let's roll some perception checks for the guards, and let's find some stats for... CR2 would mean 2 CR1s? No, it actually means 2 CR halves. Let's make them a little bit beefier. The CR halves, a warrior 2, which would be an NPC class, would probably have be CR 1/2. Let me just check a couple of pre-builds for warriors. There we go. So there is a warrior build. You can spend DM points, remember, to change the aspects of an encounter. Meaning you could make them tougher, weaker, you could change gear, you could change treasure, you could change stuff about the encounter. I'm not, because I don't know. Oh, these are CR1 third. They are weaker. Let me see if I can find a CR 1/2. There we go. Under occult skill, characters capable of casting psychic spells or those who have the feat can use the... Fuck yeah! Alright. Chagga can now channel. I already have the feat picked out. He was going to take this at 5th. It's called Versatile Channel, which allows him to channel as a positive energy. At 2 levels less, but it will be minimum 1, so he basically has a... I am going to make a note near his skills to break out the occult skill uses. Alright, since Wither, you're looking at that, can you look up... so before that evening, Chagga is actually going to do privately a reading of the key that he's got from Lloes, just to see if he can pick up any information about the key and who it was, like any previous owners. And I believe that is called a object reading use of the occult skill unlock. And object reading, not phrenology, prognostication, no. Psychometry is an appraise check. Once per day you can concentrate for a minute and make a DC 15 appraise check. So his appraise is +5. He gets a 20. He gains 1 piece of information about the historical significance or the last previous owner, such as a glimpse of the last owner's appearance or emotional state when it last used the item. You learn 1 more piece of information for every 10 by which your check exceeds the DC. So he only learns 1 piece of information. Okay, when Chagga arrives at the gates of the cemetery, I need a name for the cemetery. It's probably an old cemetery it probably has a very like imperial sounding name, an important sounding name. There needs to be gravitas to the name of the graveyard. The opposite of like Skip's Body Emporium, you know, like that sort of thing. Yeah, okay. I like the idea of steps. Okay, the cemetery is actually called the Grand Steps of Our Forefathers, as it was a cemetery that was built kind of like on a plateau or up a hill, and there are these huge steps that lead up towards it, and there are all sorts of monuments and mausoleums that are crowded around the steps, and people have big processions and ceremonies along the steps. The Grand Steps of Our Forefathers basically is a monument at the center of a cemetery. Many noble families, not just those that are many families belong to the aristocracy do have their family crypts and mausoleums here. There might even be like public ossuaries that are here as well. The grand ancestral steps, yeah, something like that. The thing could have multiple names. Cool. It might also be like this really tricky thing to bring like a coffin up because they're these really big steps. Yeah, Chagga and Lloes meet. They just know that the bottom of the steps is the entrance way to the almost necropolis that is off to the side of that is its own neighborhood almost. In Foundry, and Chagga is wearing some really heavy armor. He's got some like junky splint mail. It's not even nice. It's just perhaps the armor that he could fit into. He has on his back a tower shield. He's wearing like a really big metal gauntlet in his right hand. There's a dagger at his belt, where some of the folds of his grand belly are kind of like squeaking out from the splint mail. And he has leaning on it like it's a big a walking stick is a really interesting looking scythe. Lloes is looking at the scythe. Lloes is dressed in an armored kilt, thin leather clothes, a leather jerkin, and an embroidered cloak. He doesn't really wear much armor because it slows him down. He's got his masterwork estoc sitting in a sheath at his belt, and just a dagger. He does have a backpack, which looks like he's carrying like rope and adventuring thingies. Chagga looks like almost pale. You alright? Lloes seems to be a little bit out of breath and kind of sits down on the step while he ties his shoe and adjusts some of his equipment.
Oh, well, doing better than you. Do take your time.
Lloes looks up at him like, don't give me shit, fat man.
Yes, this key is very interesting. I must say your family is, very ruthless.
What do you mean by that?
Well, let's just say I caught a glimpse of your sister, and she was not very happy when she was using the key.
What do you mean?
Well, when people are screaming, they're normally not very happy.
Screaming? What else?
My magics only give me glimpses of the past. Keep in mind that these things can be polluted. We leave our impact on everything.
Lloes giggles a little bit.
Oh, yes, cue the fat jokes, I understand. But our psychic energies are left behind, especially during great moments of ecstasy and horror upon the objects themselves. It is almost like, you know how you can smell yourself on your clothes if you wear them for too long, even after you've taken them off?
Yeah, I know what sweat is, Chagga.
Yeah. It's just an analogy.
No need to get upset.
But the sweat on this thing from your sister, whom I recognize, was absolute and abject terror after she turned the key.
The fuck?
Yes, exactly. There's that word again. Oh, do keep in mind that You should try not to pollute the sweaty objects with your own sweat if you want me to, use my wonderful magical powers to read the objects in the future.
Like wrapping it in.
Yes, the doily is fine, but yes, try not to take possession of the object, or try not to touch it when you're feeling verklempt, or angry, or, well, feeling anything.
So don't feel anything when I'm touching things. Fucking magic. It's not how magic works.
It is how my magic works. Shall we?
Looks like the gate's closed.
Stopped you before, Lloes? Are we stymied by this closed gate?
Let me have a look here. Are we stymied by a closed gate? Did Lloes take Seeker? No, he doesn't. Okay, Lloes has disabled device, plus 11, but I don't think he's got any way of magic traps. Okay, so Lloes takes out some tools and starts fiddling with the front lock of like it's just like an iron gate you can see through, iron wrought fence with some spikes at the top and gargoyles looking down, that just closes that closes access to the cemetery at night. Bing! You hear this popping sound. Chagga raises an eyebrow and he looks around, kind of shuffling. Bit of an overcast sky with a half moon peeking through, or a partial moon peeking through. It's still wet from the earlier day's rain, but with an acrid smell to it, as the rain is often somewhat acidic. What this has done to a lot of the copper works, including the spikes along some of the fences and some old statuary, has turned them really, really, really green. Of course, they are shadows in the moonlight at this point in time. The popping sound was Lloes undoing the very large, almost ceremonial lock on the front of the cemetery. And with a slight squeak, he opens the gate just enough for him to go by. He looks back at Chagga and then opens the gate another foot.
Very funny, Lloes, very funny.
Lloes smiles a little bit and kind of scampers up the first few steps, and Chagga just comes trundling along. They are making their way up the steps when they have to take a side passage. Chagga takes a moment and he's trying to like figure out which side passage on the many landings of this great staircase to go into. Like these mausoleums aren't like spread out with lots of grass. They are tumbled and on top of each other on their little tiny walkways, and
there are gangs. A gang of gypsy folk that might live in these. Great, you're telling me about gypsies now? I'm just saying, we might not want to get lost in here. It is a maze of crypts. I'm sure there's more than a few ghoulies in some of these crypts.
Fuck off, Chagga. Chagga smiles to himself. He feels better, given that, Lloes has made a few cracks at Chagga. Chagga will hit back.
Yes, I think it's this way.
You think?
Yes, I know it's this way.
How do you know?
I caught a peek at a map. You'd be surprised what a bunch of warrior lugheads leave lying around in the family library. It's almost like they forgot to read, or they forgot that other people can.
You don't like your family too much, do you?
It's not that I don't like my family. My family is quite prestigious. The Dune family. Chaggarin, I suppose they took one look of me whenever I came out of my mother and knew that I would take after my great-great-grandfather. He was a behemoth of a man, known for his
great appetites. And Chagga fucking fingers when he says that, and he paused just at the right time with appetites. It kind of makes Lloes shudder that he may suggest that it's not just food. That's a cool idea. I like it. How am I going to keep track of this? I'm going to keep track of this in token form. Female ghost. No, not female Ghostbusters. Stop autofilling. Why are they all so scary? Because they're ghosts, Marty. I ain't afraid of no ghost. You know what? I'm going to make a not so scary one, and I'm going to make a scary one. We don't have to go very far for scary. Oh, we're going to call this one the Handmaiden. Oh, God. Cool. I'm going to track them. I've created some tokens, and that is how I will track it. Please scream out loud or in channel if I haven't. If you feel it's a good time for it to manifest. Stream DM points. Okay. 120 feet away. So Chagga and Lloes need to make perception checks. Unfortunately, Glitch is down, which is the service that I use to run AdventureBot. AdventureBot looks like it's working fine. But I'm not able to log into Glitch, so I can add Lloes and Chagga to the initiative or to the perception check. So we'll just have to do these. I'll just have to do these the old way. Perception +5, and for Chagga and Lloes has got a perception of +8. So Lloes is first, Chagga second. Chagga's just prattling on, and Lloes is following. He's +8 is 17 at 120-foot distance. That adds 12 with a doorway in between that is DC 16, and then the guards. Let's see how noisy they were. They were noisy, so Lloes is heard something. Ooh. As for light, I think at this point in time, both Lloes and Chagga have torches. You know what? That's actually, yeah, torches. Add some. wandering through a graveyard with torch in hand. All right, let's see if the guards notice Lloes and Chagga approaching. So Chagga walking and talking is probably 0. His armor check penalty is -7 in crappy splint mill. So that's -5 with distance. It is DC 120 feet is DC 7, and then around doors is DC 11, and the guards were distracted as they... Were they distracted? They were performing a routine activity. Okay, so they were just guarding. So 5 with... -5, 7. Door is 11. And their routine activity means they weren't really on high alert, so we'll say they're distracted. DC 15 for these two guards to notice Chagga, and their perception is, oh, -1. They gotta roll really well. Nope. So Chagga and Lloes now are able to, we'll say, have the distance. They're about 60 feet away from the entrance to a crypt. Lloes has quietly put his bag of equipment down, and they can see like lantern light coming out of the front entrance of a crypt. And I will draw on the ground the rest of this room, which kind of goes from isometric into like top down. And then there's like an opening where they can, you know, bring caskets and people through, leading into this family crypt. There's actually a sizable amount of space that is here. It's like a 10-foot archway leading into a kind of like domed crypt area. And Chagga and Lloes are about 60 feet away when they're gonna attempt to stealth and sneak up on those two on the two guys that they can hear doing a routine activity. Okay, so the routine activity was these two guards are chatting while having like a snack. It's like, oh, pass me some wine. Yeah, don't drink too much though. We're on duty. Hey, did your wife pack any cheese? Of course she did. You know, like they're sharing sort of like a basketed lunch that one of their wives packed them.
Did you say cheese?
Says Chagga. Lloes gives him a look like, not now. Chagga's excited that there might be cheese. What's going on here? Blah, 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 blah. CR4 group? What are we looking at? Oh, I think that was just Wither playing with the thing. We already rolled the CR for the group. The CR was 2. If you'd like to increase the DC, you can with a DM point. If you want these two warrior 2s to be beefier, we can do that.
What's the plan?
Well, we have to go inside, right?
Yes.
So we should go inside.
Oh, yes, but it sounds like those people are in there. They said they were on duty.
Duty for what?
That's a good question, my dear Lloes.
Let's just go in.
Yes. These are bastards that likely want to make you scream just like they did your sister.
Fuck them, then.
Yes, exactly. There's that word again. I'll let you go first. Although, I do have something devilish in mind.
CR2, so I think doubling the number adds 2 to the CR. Give me a second. And a CR 1/2 when it's the next step is 1, and then a CR2. I think it's 2 CR 1/2s, but give me a second. I can verify this by looking at the XP sheet. That should be the equal XP. So a CR 1/2 guy is 200, so 2 of them would be 400. Yeah, you're right. Yep, there should be 4 of them. Okay. I'm gonna say that there are 2 more that they don't sense, and that might be the complication. I'm gonna put them off to the side.
I have a little surprise for one of them. If it works, we might have to, we might just get to stand back and watch the 2 of them fight. The fuck? It's a little thing that I learned.
Alright. If it doesn't work, I'm going in with my sword.
If you've caught your breath, then sure.
I fucking caught my breath. I'm just going to take it the first time I fought with these guys, so let's say Lloes casts mage armor at the start, like when they started walking up the steps. He really wants to cast shield, but he knows that spellcasting is loud. Alright, so Chagga and Lloes have to beat DC 9s while distracted around a room, if we're going to take a DC 10 check. Distracted around a room, around a corner, at 60 feet. So they have to beat DC... That's not good for these guards. They have a -1 perception. Which means if they take 10, they get 9. Around a corner means they have to get that 9 would be a DC 5 stealth check. And then the distance, yeah, we'll just do the distance of the door to them. Is 20 feet. So a DC 3 stealth check. Lloes can make this stealth check no problem. He auto makes the stealth check. Chagga, with his +1 dex from the stream, has a stealth of 1 minus his armor check penalty of 7 from his armor. So he's at -6 versus the DC 4 check. 9 minus 4 is 5 minus, yeah, DC 1 check. Oh, he failed! They heard Chagga! Oh, that's funny. Okay. Somebody's here. There shouldn't be anybody here. They already went in. Chagga stops. Like, Lloes is like, Chagga like stepped on some gravel and his armor tinked against the side of the wall. I think that means initiative. There is no surprise round. There's no surprise round for this combat. B team, initiative. We've got Foster guards and their initiatives. Their initiatives are +2. And we've got Chagga and Lloes and some other people that you don't need to know about. Which means we need 3 random rolls. So basically I have this queue of random numbers and I push enter and a bunch of random numbers get spit out. And I grab the numbers in the exact order. And I paste them into the rolls. And these are the rolls. And there's no ghost here, and there's no junker, and there's no Alistair. It's just Foster, Lloes, and Chagga. Alright, I will sort. Lloes and Chagga at least get the jump on them in initiative. It is Lloes first, Chagga next, and then the Foster guards. Chagga actually has a +1 initiative, which doesn't change the order, because you guys just want him to have better stats, which is pretty cool. Alright, so Lloes realizes that there's going to be like a sword fight, so he is going to he's going to cast a shield spell. That's a 2-action action in this 3-action economy system. Funny. And then he's going to his sword is probably out if he was sneaking up on guards. He is going to use a swift action to activate his ninja vanish, which means he can go invisible for 2 rounds or 1? 2 rounds.
Oh, where'd you go?
We're just inside the door. And then he's going to move into the room, which is a very intricately carved and well decorated domed building with grave markers along the walls, with very prestigious looking names chiseled or engraved on the metal placards. There is an altar with some objects on it, probably of religious in nature, some beautiful mosaics, and one thing that Lloes can't help but notice is that one of the panels in the back behind the altar has been removed, and there seems to be like a tunnel or a room or a place back there. These 2 guards are like, somebody's here, and they're both like eating cheese and crackers, and they're passing this bottle of wine back and forth, and some hard bread, and they're just sort of looking. Chagga is going to trundle around the corner, in his heavy armor. Hopefully he can get close enough. So Chagga's movement is 20 in heavy armor. Alright, and then we're going to look at the Murderous command spell, which he has prepared as one of his few non-standard cleric spells. Uh, 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels. He's a 2nd level cleric, so 30 feet away. Come on, 25 feet away. Okay, guard on the right is going to wiggle his fingers and, you there, don't you think that your friend is being bad? And this is a verbal component, so all Chagga has to do is make sure his thoughts are in order, which is fine. He's not being threatened in any way. So he basically puts his fingers up to his forehead and puts in this Murderous command into the rogue. And there's a will save. Somebody want to roll a d20 -1 for the human warrior bandit? Or the human warrior Foster guard? 8. 8 does not meet the DC of 15. So the guy goes, "Yeah, I don't fucking like olives," and he's like scrambling at his at the hilt of his sword. We'll say the bandits have. It looks like they have rapiers. Piercing weapons? No, they would have slashing weapons. They've got scimitars. So he's like scrambling for his scimitar, and this guy has got a murderous command. He's seeing red, and he really doesn't like olives, and he hates it when his buddy's wife packs lunch with olives in it. And he's gonna have a mental urge to kill the nearest ally, which it obeys to the best of its ability. Duration 1 round. They're guards. We're just using the bandits' stats, which is why I accidentally called them bandit. Alright, Chagga came in, and Chagga's giggling. "Oh, I'll eat the olives." So he moved and cast. It's a 2-action thing. The guards... the guards, like, "The fuck is that? What? I thought you liked olives, and what are you doing?" And the guard with the murderous command lunges forward with his scimitar. I need a 1d20 plus 3 for the scimitar. It's a nat 1. So roll to confirm the critical miss. 19 would have hit his friend. Of course, he's flat-footed. His friend drops what he's doing. He also pulls his sword and then goes full defense, like he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. "Ari, what the fuck?" And then it's at this point in time that Lloes and Chagga hear, "Hey, what's going on out there?" As there are 2 other voices that are further into whatever dark chamber is beyond, and they can see a little bit of light, like as in like somebody's bringing torchlight or lamplight a little bit further down, and these guards are in the hole. They can hear something going on, but they heard like their 2 guards yelling. Lloes is going to sneak up on this guy. He's going to step in, and he's going to attack with his S-stock. He just has like the shot of adrenaline. He attacks the first guy. It might have been optimal for him to attack the other guy, but he just rushes in. And with his masterwork S-stock, the guy is flat-footed because Lloes is invisible. Did I figure out his melee attack? Was that a good boy? Yes, that was a good boy. Plus 7. 1d20 plus 7 from Lloes. Plus 2 for invisible, and the guy is flat-footed AC. Lloes stabs him, kind of runs him through the side. The armor tries to keep the sword at bay, but the long S-stock, I believe, is a piercing weapon. And it goes too many inches into his side. 2d4 damage. Or maybe just inexperienced. 2d4, and does he add dex to damage yet? That I don't know. I don't think as a first level... blah, blah, blah. No, he does not get precise strike. Swashbuckler's Grace. When did they get dex to damage, swashbucklers? I don't think it's yet. So he'll do 2d4 damage from his S-Dock plus 1d6 sneak attack. 8 damage. The warrior is not bloodied by that, but he's definitely surprised. And Lloes stepped as an action. He attacked, and then yeah, it could be feats. Feats. Swashbucklers don't. Okay. We'll have to fix that with his feats. And he does have Piranha Strike. This guy is bleeding because of bleeding attack. And then he does get one more. He does get one more strike. So this would be +7 -5, and it's a masterwork S-Dock. So he hit the guy again for this time 2d4 damage. So he ripped the blade out, and now that guard is bloodied. Ha! Blood spills to the floor of this possibly holy ground. Chagga comes moving in.
Oh, well, I suppose we'll have to, you want to step back there, Lloes? I wouldn't want to hit you with this thing.
Chagga is just going to pull out his tower shield. You're not too sure how he's going to fight with a two-handed scythe and a tower shield in the other hand. He then sort of repositions a little bit. Actually, no, he's going to stay there. A supernatural ability is a 2-action thing. So he has something called Mage Hand, or Hand of the Mage, with as part of his Hand of the Acolyte, as part of his magic domain. 7 times per day, he can make a melee weapon fly from his hand as if he's throwing it. So he's throwing his scythe at the really befuddled guard. This is treated as a ranged attack with a thrown weapon. So there's a chance that he hits Lloes with this, unfortunately. His Acolyte attack, he's got a BAB of 2, plus his Wisdom of 18 would be +6. So he is whipping this thing with a +6. He does not have Precise Strike. He does not have, what do you call it? Point blank shot. At a -4, so a 13 does not hit the warrior, and a 13 does not hit Lloes. So the big ass scythe goes whipping around the room in a big circle. Both Lloes and this guy duck, and then it goes careening around a little bit and then flying back into Chagga's hand.
Oh, there we go. It's sort of like a boomerang.
The Foster guards. So this guy is no longer Murderous commanding. However, he is bleeding, and I believe the bleed from bleed attack is 1, but we'll check under the ninja trick. Yes. He bleeds 1. Bleed every round at the start of each of their turns. So he's like, oh! Then he has to take out his blade, no AOO. And then I think he's going to instinctually, slash back at Lloes. +3. AC 19 against a Lloes with mage armor. Lloes' AC with a +1 armor bonus is 16. When he adds mage armor, it becomes a 19. I think he just tagged Lloes, unless there is a dodge or something that I'm forgetting somewhere. First level swashbuckler. He gets nimble at 3rd level. That's where a dodge would come in. He does not have dodge as any of his feats. Okay, so Lloes is going to spend a panache point to try to parry the attack. He gets to make an attack roll as if he's making an AOO. Lloes is able to parry the attack. Upon performing a successful parry, as if he has at least 1 panache point left, then he gets to retort, which he will do. Critical threat from Lloes. Not a critical hit for 2d4 damage from his S-Stock, 5 damage. So the guy slashed in with his scimitar, he blocked with the S-Stock, and then kind of gave him a poke with one of the cross guards of the blade. It's like this really pointy guard, and the guard's nearly doubled over as he's bleeding from a horrible wound. That was the response to his attack. He attacked once, he drew his weapon. I think at this point in time, he's just gonna, like, back off, and he kind of bobbles against the, I need help here! And the spinning sound of the still intact wine bottle moving throughout the room, and some of the lunch got spilled from the altar. This guard took out his scimitar last time. He had previously full defense, but I don't think at this point in time, you bastard! He steps forward and is going to take a swing at Lloes' head. With the scimitar, AC 8 is not high enough, an AC 2, and he stepped, he only gets 2 attacks. Now the other 2 guards are plunging forward as they hear the sounds of combat, and one of them comes out of the hole, and the other one with a lantern in hand is coming out this way. They double moved and pulled out their respective scimitars, and there are 2 other Fosserite guards. Very quickly, the party has become outnumbered. Top of the round, Lloes. I think that guy looks like he's all fucked up. He's going to concentrate on the guy in front of him. Little help here, Chagga! And he's going to step around the Fosserite guard and take a couple of swings. He hits and misses. Poking at the guard after some fencing, basically, between the scimitar and the S-Stock. He poked the guard in the guard's shoulder. Punctured through his light armor. Oh, all right. I suppose I could come in here. Chagga is going to use the Hand of the Acolyte once. He sees a bunch of men. I think it's time to teach you lads a lesson. Chagga moves into about here. He whispers into his holy symbol, and all sorts of black energy begins to unfurl into the room. He says some words for effect, and necromantic energy spreads along the ground, kind of like it's like a spreading can of oil, and it just sort of quickly goes across the ground and goes up people's legs, and simultaneously all 4 of the guards cry out while Lloes is sort of hopping on the ground, and it doesn't seem to be affecting him, as Chagga is going to use his selective channel to exclude Lloes. from this negative energy. Now, the negative energy doesn't do that much at this level. It does 1 point of whopping damage to everyone. We don't even need to roll on that, but it is disconcerting to the guards. Now, that one guard who has 2 hit points left is almost dropped by that, while the other ones are creeped out by Chagga's attack. However,